Let's get through the rigmarole first before we start the podcast. Remember, guys, this podcast posts each and every single Wednesday. The first segment of the show, we go through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. The second segment of the show, we go through all the AFC East news you need to know about. And the third and final segment of the show, we go through the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. So this first news story is concerning Brandon Albert. And obviously, I'm sure all Dolphins fans have heard that he has retired. And the Jaguars get their 7th round pick back that they sent us, which isn't a big deal. So we're going to read into this story real quick here. This is by Dallas Robinson of Pro Football Rumors. If Brandon Albert stays retired, the Jaguars have the right to recoup $3 million in signing bonus from the left tackle, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL.com. Jacksonville absorbed Albert's base salaries when it acquired him from the Dolphins earlier this year. But as with any trade, Albert's pertained bonus money stayed with his original club, with the Dolphins taking on $3 million in accelerated dead money. Despite that, Albert's rights and the rights to any forfeited money transferred to the Jaguars as a part of the swap with the Dolphins. In sum, the Jaguars will never actually pay Albert a dime of his 2017-2018 base salaries, which would have totaled to $18 million. Instead, provided Albert stays retired, they'll pick up the $3 million in cash, not cap space. Plus, Jacksonville won't even lose their 2018 7th-round pick it's sent to the Dolphins. Because Albert wasn't on the Jacksonville roster for at least 3 games, Miami was forced to return the draft choice. Contract squabbles between the Jaguars and Albert are now nothing new, as the veteran blindside protector held out for a new deal soon after being traded to Jacksonville. Yeah, that's what happened. That's the whole situation. It's interesting that he retired. I see a lot of Dolphins fans wanting him to come back and play guard, which a lot of people don't remember, but he actually played guard coming out of college when he was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. So yeah, that's the story on the Brandon Albert situation. We have some minor transactions that the Dolphins did. This is older news, so we're gonna get through this. This is by Roy Parks of Pro Football Rumors. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. So this is big news for some Dolphins fans that they were happy. The Dolphins will sign wide receiver Jordan Westerkamp today. Hopefully I say his name right. According to Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald, in 4 years at Nebraska, Westerkamp posted 167 catches for 2,000 yards and 2,500 yards and 18 touchdowns, as Barry Jackson writes. So yeah, he's been really good in training camp so far. He's caught some touchdowns. He caught a touchdown in today's training camp, which today is Wednesday. He caught in today's training camp. He made a lot of big plays. So he's looking really nice. And the Nebraska product looks like a nice move. We have a lot of really good receivers on it. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, not that we needed him, but obviously the Drew Morgan, he's having a great camp. He's actually gotten first-team reps. That's how good of a camp he's had. So he's looking like I think he's going to make the roster. The fact that he's getting first-team reps, I think he's going to make the roster. I can't wait to see what he does in preseason. He looks really good. A lot of people forget he's a big-bodied receiver. He's a great route runner, smart player. Should be a red zone threat for sure. If you didn't hear, the Dolphins are likely to sign or trade for a defensive tackle. I did a news update on this, but we'll go through it one more time. Basically, the sum of the story is if the Dolphins if the Dolphins aren't comfortable with what they have in Vincent Taylor and Devon Godchaux, then they're going to look for a veteran presence there. Whether that means signing a veteran or trading for a veteran, and most likely it's going to be trading for a veteran. And the candidates for that trade are, let me get the list here, Eric Armstead, Vinnie Curry, Carl Davis, Steve McClendon, and Sheldon Richardson. I think the most likely out of those guys is Sheldon Richardson. The Jets want him off the roster because of his because he apparently has locker room issues. But most of the Jets on that, like the whole defensive line, got in trouble last year for the same thing. Basically, tardiness and absence from team meetings was the only reason the Jets were so upset with Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson. But they're more likely to part ways with Sheldon than they are Muhammad. So yeah, that's the whole reason they want to get rid of somebody that talented. They just don't think he fits the culture. Even though Sheldon has publicly said that he wants to be a Jet. This next news story. The Dolphins tried to lure Bears executive Champ Kelly. We'll get into this here because I don't think we've talked about this. This is an interesting little story. This article is by Ben Levine of Pro Football Rumors. Let's see if I can't find it. Here we go. All right. The Bears have promoted former pro scouting director Champ Kelly to assistant director of player personnel. According to Brad Briggs of the Chicago Tribune, the Dolphins tried to, quote, lure away Kelly this past offseason, but Chicago clearly had bigger plans for the executive. The former United Indoor Football League general manager has been with the Bears organization since 2015, and he's previously spent time as the Broncos assistant director of pro personnel. So there you go on that story. Nothing really serious there. Obviously, Adam Gase has ties to the Bears. Obviously, coaching there for a year, he felt comfortable with Champ, I guess. So this next news story details Alteron Werner's contract. This article is by Dallas Robinson of Pro Football Rumors. Alteron Werner's one-year deal with the Dolphins is a minimum salary benefit pact and doesn't contain any guaranteed money. According to Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, as such, Werner will earn $900K if he earns a spot on the Dolphins roster, but will only count for $600K against the club's salary cap. The veteran defensive back is expected to be given every opportunity to displace Bobby McCain as the Dolphins slot corner. Per Barry Jackson, but it's also possible that Werner will fail to make their squad at all. In 2016, Werner appeared in all 16 games for Tampa Bay, but only played 22.8% of the defensive snaps. So again, he's basically getting the veteran minimum. I think he's actually getting less than that. So it was a good move by us. He's looked really good in training camp so far. And I mean, we've made a lot of good moves, man. We stole two of the cornerstones of the LA Rams' dominant defense. We stole T.J. McDonald, and we stole Will Hayes. So some of the moves that we made this offseason, you just got to take your hat off to. Because, I mean, obviously the Julius Thomas trade and how good he's looked in training camp so far. And I know he's not caught a lot of touchdowns, but he has been tremendous of adding an extra element and really helping us in the blocking game with our wide receiver screens. Which we really struggled to execute last season. He really gives us an extra element there, and he's going to help us execute those even more because you can line him up outside, split him out wide. That's really going to help us. There's no real news on Jarvis Landry. So, yeah, there's nothing really going on there other than, everything that you guys have already heard. Hopefully we get a deal done soon with him. I truly don't believe that the Dolphins are waiting to see what DP does. I just don't believe it. I think they are trying to get a deal done with him, which is good news. Hopefully that's not what they're doing, but I don't know. Maybe I just choose not to believe it. For God's sakes, I just can't wait till this gets done. I'm sure all Dolphins fans are going to be super excited when the deal gets done. All right, so let's move into the second segment of the show. Oh yeah, I forgot one more important story. Jarvis Landry was diagnosed with a concussion. Or not Jarvis Landry, excuse me, Jay Ajayi. Jay Ajayi was diagnosed with a concussion, so he might miss significant time, depending on how, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll know more with the Dolphins when I do the Dolphins training camp recap, but he was officially diagnosed with a concussion. So yeah, it sucks. But it is what it is. Let's see here. All right, so let's get into the AFC East news you need to know about. Starting with the Patriots, because we start with the Patriots because everybody talks about the Patriots. You want to get them out of the way as fast as you possibly can. And there's no real, let's see here. The Patriots, that's not, let's see here. Obviously, if you didn't hear, Rob Ninkovich retired. Another blunder by the Dolphins. He could have been a Dolphin for life, and we let him go to the Patriots, and obviously had a really good career in New England. That's it for Patriots news. Literally. We didn't spend much time on that. Alright, let's move on to the Buffalo Bills. See if we can't see what they're up to. Nothing. This thing's taking forever. Can't find the Bills. Hang on. Here we go. Interesting stuff going on with the Bills. To be honest, okay, so look, nothing really. The Bills aren't, so just some small stories really. The Chargers acquire Cardell Jones. The Bills are not interested in Colin Kaepernick, and they're still trying to get wide receiver Anquan Bolden. To me, I'm not saying Anquan Bolden's like bad, but because he led the Lions in touchdown receptions last year, but he is, I don't know. The Bills are really hurting for receivers, man. They are really hurting for receivers. I think some of the more notable additions. They drafted Zay Jones. They signed Andre Holmes, and they're still looking for receivers. So that's not a good sign for them. All right, so we got some Jets news. Ryan Clady retires from the NFL. That's big news. All right, let's get into that. Let's get a little bit dig a little bit deeper in here. Ryan Clady. This article is by Zach Links of Pro Football Rumors. Ryan Clady is walking away from football. The offensive tackle took to Twitter on Tuesday to announce his retirement. So yeah, I think that's it. Okay, Clady first entered the league we know that. First entered the league as a first-round pick of the Broncos in 2008. He went on to earn 4 Pro Bowl nods and 2 first-team All-Pro selections. Unfortunately, a torn ACL suffered prior to the 2015 season sidetracked his career. Clady wound up missing the entire campaign and was traded to the Jets in the spring of 2016. After a so-so season, Clady has opted to begin his next chapter of his professional life. So there you go. That's a big hit to the Jets' offensive line that was already pretty bad anyway. Yeah. Alright, so that's all the AFC East news you need to know about. Nothing serious there. Obviously, hang on. The Jets got Lucky Whitehead. They claimed him off the street there. Which the whole Lucky Whitehead situation was stupid. So let's move on to the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. Not a lot of news. Not a lot of news to discuss. In terms of training camp things today, that was some awesome things that happened that I'm super excited about. Anthony Fasano caught his first touchdown in training camp today, and like I said, I think he's going to be super effective in the play action game. And it was off of a play action bootleg. Tannehill's knee's looking really good. He had 2 first down runs. Lawrence Timmons was coming on an A-gap blitz. And he escaped him in the pocket and then ran for a first down. And then on the next play, he ran for another first down. So Tannehill's knee is looking really nice. Kenny Stills caught a 20-yard slant for a touchdown, which is that's a pretty impressive throw from Ryan Tannehill. So Ryan Tannehill, if you guys have been following the training camp recaps, he's been throwing, he has thrown a ton of touchdowns. And the red zone offense is way better than it was from this year. From a year ago, it's like a totally different offense. They are off the charts right now. I can't. A lot of people are making fuss about the 4 interceptions that he threw in training camp, but those were so, all of those throws were gunslinger throws. He was just being aggressive. So they weren't bad. They weren't bad. He was throwing in double coverage across the middle. They weren't bad reads like that. He was just going deep with the ball, and he was just being a little bit too aggressive with the throw. I would rather him do that than look at on an out route, a deep out route. There's 50. There's a guy underneath and a guy over the top in a cover 2, and he throws that pick. That's just a bad read. But he's not doing that. He's just most of them. That one say, I'm getting out of hand here. So let's move on to the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. We're actually getting into this a little bit early, with 14 minutes, but we got a lot of questions to answer anyway. I think we broke the record for the amount of questions that were asked. I think there were 144 questions asked, which is pretty crazy. Before we hit to the fan Q&A and we get into the questions, I want everybody to just give yourselves a round of applause, for God's sakes. We hit 1,000 subscribers, which is awesome, and that's all, again, like I said, we broke the record for most questions asked. You guys continue to build this community, and it is amazing. Hats off to you guys for getting us there, and the community continues to build, and it's super awesome. And we get to do segments like this with the fan Q&A, having a conversation about the Dolphins, which is super cool. All right, and people are asking if I'm going to do a special video on the 1,000 subscribers. I wouldn't call it a special video, but it definitely is going to be giving thanks to specific people who have been very active in the community from like day one, since I had like 40 subscribers. So yeah, everybody's going to get a special thank you. So David, this first question comes from, well, this isn't really a Dolphins related question. David, he says, I heard that Jay went somewhere in this offseason to do some extreme workouts. Is this true? If so, what did he do? Also, Mr. Skaggs, can we all pitch in and get Skaggs 1383 t-shirt jerseys? First of all, that would be, that would be awesome. I would steal all the jerseys and keep it for myself, though. But did Jay do? I think he worked out with some. I think he worked out with Terrell Davis, or maybe it was LaDainian. He worked out with a lot of different people, and he was working on his. He worked out with Tannehill in the off season, working on his receiving skills. It was mainly working on his receiving skills, from what I've heard. Okay, this question comes from Jaden Underwood. He says, who is going to be the surprise to make the 53-man roster? I'm going to say Drew Morgan, because I don't think, when you look at the undrafted free agents that we've signed, and you would never expect, a receiver to run a 4.7 at the combine, undrafted free agent, to make the dang roster, and I think he's going to make the 53-man roster. He's looked amazing. So yeah. This next question comes from, Wing 57. He says, concerning the nickel position, do you think Bobby McCain is going to manage to hold out the starting job, or is Alteron Werner going to take that starting job before week 1? Oh man, it's hard to tell right now. It's a little early. Obviously, Bobby McCain suffered a minor injury. He's been back since, but that's hard to tell. I think we're a little too. I think preseason's really going to decide that. But right now, Bobby McCain has the advantage over Werner because he just knows the playbook more. So we'll see. But I would say it's right now it looks unlikely. This next question comes from Will. He says, "Do you think the NFC South?" Excuse me, I'm going to burp again. Excuse me. He says, "Do you think the NFC South defenses are going to be beneficial to help our offense gain confidence, seeing how they aren't the strongest bunch in NFL from last season?" That's not true. I understand what you're saying, but the Falcons, they have a really talented defense. With Vic Beasley, who led the league in sacks last year, they increased their pass rush ability with Takk McKinley. Then they obviously have Deion Jones and Keanu Neal, who both are in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. On the outside, on their cornerback position, they have Desmond Trufant, who, if he can stay healthy, is one of the best corners in the league. And then they have Brian Poole, Ricardo Allen, Robert Alford. They have a really good secondary as well. So it's that's not easy. And then you look at the Carolina Panthers. If they stay healthy, their front seven is one of the best in the league. Obviously including their linebacker core, which is insanely good with Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and Shaq Thompson. And then up front you got K'Wan Short. And then on the edge, Mario Addison, who I think in the first 6 games of the season had 6 sacks, and then he got hurt. So their defense is pretty tough. And then the only bad defense in their division is the Saints. The Buccaneers have a really good defense. They probably have the best all-around defense with Quan Alexander, Levante David as their linebackers, and then you have Gerald McCoy and Noah Spence rushing the passer. And then in your secondary, you have, at least in your corner positions, you have Vernon Hargreaves and Brent Grimes. So there's no easy defenses in that division except the Saints. So I'm going to disagree with you because I think they do have talented defenses if they can stay healthy. But yeah, in terms of performance last year, they did not perform well. But I think this upcoming season they're going to be better. The Buccaneers is the only defense that was consistently good in that division because they were probably they were the most healthy. But you think I think our offense is one of the best in the league. I think we can perform even against good defenses at a high level. So I don't think our offense needs a confidence boost. I think they know what they're capable of doing, especially this team. They're very close. Jonathan Diaz says finally back to football. Anyway, my question is, who do you think on the roster? He says, who do you like on the roster, but you don't like will not make the final 53? I'd have to go with Marquise Gray or Dominique Jones. The tight ends, I think they were both amazing contributors last season, but we probably won't keep 4 tight ends on this roster. I'm gonna alter this question. The guy that I really want to make the 53-man roster that probably won't, and I really can't wait to see him play in preseason. I'm not gonna pronounce his name wrong, but Thomas Durante or Durote, I don't know how to say his name. I don't have his name in front of me right now. I pronounce it better, but the UCLA tight end who we drafted again 2 seasons ago at tight end, he has really impressed me since he's been a Dolphin. Like when he actually got snaps in the regular season last year, and there were a couple times where he beat his man on a route like pretty good. So if there was one guy that I'm just like really rooting for, it's him, because I think he's pretty super talented as a receiving threat. And I don't really understand the question. You will not make the final roster. The guy that I would have to go with Marquise Gray too. But I wouldn't be surprised if he made the roster just because he's a great blocker. Same thing with Dominique Jones, and they're sufficient receivers. So let's move on to the next question. Jared Dickerson says, once TJ McDonald becomes eligible to play after Week 8, where do you think he would rank? Where would you rank our secondary among the rest of the league? So when TJ McDonald comes back, I think our cornerbacks were so underrated last season. And our safeties were really good too if they could have just stayed healthy. I'll rank our secondary. The fact that we were number 1 in third down defense last year, I would rank our secondary because I think they've improved our defense. Definitely from 8 to 5, somewhere in that range. I would be willing to say definitely in the top 10 for sure. All right. This is Patrick. He says one of these we've answered this question in the fan Q&A. Let's see here. Next question. This comes from Brandon. He says, if our defense holds teams to say 20 points per game, do you think that would be good considering the fact that we averaged about 24 points a game last season? I think our defense can do better than that. I think we can hold teams to somewhere. I mean, this is going to sound really stupid, but close to what you're saying, like 18 to 19 points a game. Maybe somewhere in there. I think we're talented enough to do it. But yeah, that's right around what you said. So I'm feeling like an idiot for saying it. But yeah, I agree with that. And our offense should score more than 24 points a game. Their average should be a little bit higher. This is Patrick says, JJ is being, he was diagnosed with concussion. This is Patrick says, what do you think of our trade for Julius Thomas now that Brendan Albert has unexpectedly retired? If you guys don't know, because it was, months ago, I didn't like the trade at first because I was like, well, it opens another hole on the offensive line and we're going to have to figure that out. But it fills another hole in the tight end position, which we really needed. But we filled it with a tight end that really couldn't stay healthy. He's had a bad injury history throughout his career. So that's why I didn't like the trade. If Julius Thomas can, I love the trade now. Obviously, it worked out in our benefit. Obviously, BA retired. He wouldn't have retired if he was a Dolphin, though. But BA retired. It worked out for the best because I think our offensive line, to be honest with you, it looks better than it did last year. I think. Some surprise players like Brendel, who's been, and I acknowledge I think I'm saying his name wrong. Brendel Jake Brendel, who's been a surprise. He's looked really good at center, and he's looked really good at guard. So I think our offense overall is better than it was last year. Our offensive line is, and I think our tight end position is not even. It is so much better than it was last year. We have one of the best tight end rooms in the league now. I think the contrast between what Julius Thomas brings to the table and what Anthony Fasano brings to the table just makes our red zone offense that much deadlier. I can't wait to see them. So yeah, I think it was. I think we, to quote Jimmy Johnson, I think it was a highway train robbery. Let's see here. G Delva 2003. He says, who will play the quarterback position in preseason? So if you're not familiar with how preseason works, quarterbacks, every quarterback basically plays that's on your roster. So from 1 through 4 or 3, how many you have on your roster? How many of you are carrying? This next question comes from Brandon. He says, I really feel Byron Maxwell is a subpar at times. I think Rashad Jones could play support and Xavier Howard's side and Nate Allen support Lippett because, of course, he has more experience. Do you agree? So Jones could play support on Howard's side and Nate Allen support Lippett's because of... I think Xavier Howard could be... I think he has the talent to be left on an island, depending on how his day is going. That all depends on what happens on that specific day. I have enough confidence from what I've seen of Xavier, which I think he's going to prove. I think you're going to see a lot more 25 jerseys this upcoming season because of how he's going to contribute to the football team. But yeah, I think you're not going to have to give help. I know that he's going into his second year, so it's not like he's a rookie. He's had experience. He's played in a playoff game, so he played in quite a few games last season. So I'm not really concerned about the experience. Brandon, he says, this next question comes from Brandon. He says, even though our line stinks at times, they practice against a top 5 to 4 front, so of course they should be giving our rookies hell, right? But won't this make the rookie defensive tackles better? If they want to make the team, they have to learn new moves, which in turn will make them better, assuming, right? Also, so you're saying even though our line stinks at times, they practice against a top 4 to top... I don't know if you're talking about I'm assuming you're talking about the offensive line. Do you think that will make our rookie defensive tackles better? They've been making plays in practice for all the bull crap that we've heard about, the Dolphins wanting, wait and see mode and all this other stuff. Vincent Taylor had a really good practice today. Devon had a really good practice today. Vincent had a huge tackle for loss against Kenyon Drake today, and Devon had a holding penalty called against him, and that was against the first team offensive line. So they've been making plays against talented competition. So I think we have to wait. I mean, it might be too late to wait to preseason to make a move. Maybe after we practice against the Eagles in training camp, but I think we're being a little. I think what we have in house right now is sufficient enough. Unless we'll see on that. But they've been making plays in training camp so far. That's all we can go off of. Brandon says. He says, I don't think we should play another DT because of the fact we have young defensive tackles. So you're saying we shouldn't go out and get one who can learn from proven players. I'd rather gamble on young players than players who we've already seen in their callings. Do you agree? Yes and no. I agree. If we can get in Sheldon Richardson for cheap, which would be a 1-year rental anyway, I don't think as a GM, I don't think you don't pull. I don't see how you don't pull that trigger, just because he's a young player as well. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we should go out and sign somebody like Roy Miller or somebody who's not so good anyway. I would rather play our young players and have them fail and learn and grow than sign Roy Miller and have him fail, if that makes any sense. So I do agree with you on that. Let's see here. This another question that comes from Brandon. He says, do you think that setup we give defenses hell because of the mixture of speed, power, and Devontae Parker's ability to go? Yes, the personnel. TJ McDonald, he was doing press conference and he described it the best. It's it's like we pick your poison. You have JJ in the backfield, who's one of the best running backs in the league. You have one of the best tight ends, Julius Thomas, if he can stay healthy. And then you look at our receiver core with Juice Landry, who you have to double team on third down every single down. You have to every third down you have to double team him. Because of how productive he is on third down. And then you have Devontae Parker on the outside, who looks like one of the best receivers in the game so far. And then you look at Kenny Stills, who's one of the best deep threats in the league. So we present so many problems for a defense in on any point on the football field. Some offenses, their offense is really good in one area. Our offense is good in every single scenario you could possibly think of. I can't wait to see what our offense does. We're on the 50-yard line and we're taking a shot. Do you know how effective our offense is going to be? It's going to be insane. If you sell out for the run, if you stack the box, well, guess what? We have Kenny Stills who can take your DBs over the top. We have Devontae Parker who can take your DBs over the top. We have Julius Thomas who can hit you in the seam or a deep crossing route if you do that. You can't play zero man. You can't play, you can't jailbreak blitz us. You can't play zero coverage on us because of the talent that we have. That Juice can beat somebody on a slant, take it to the end zone. Same thing with Devontae Parker. So our offense seriously presents so much problems for a defensive coordinator that the variety of talent that we have across the board is a top 3, top 5 unit in the league. So I cannot wait to see this offense go. Let's see here. Okay, this question comes from Colin Klein. Colin. He says, do you see Raekwon McMillan with Defensive Rookie of the Year? And if not, Charles Harris is Defensive Rookie of the Year? They both have looked amazing in camp. I heard McMillan has the IQ to line up defenses at age 20. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how ridiculous that is. But yes, they both have looked amazing. And to go through the Charles Harris narrative, right? At the beginning of OTAs, when we first saw him in Dolphins gear, he looked insanely good. He looked explosive. He looked amazing. He was giving Laramie Tunsil fits, who's one of the best tackles in the league. So he looked amazing. But the narrative was wait and see until training camp when he puts pads on and the offensive line can actually hit him back. Be a little bit more physical with him. So we waited to see. He put pads on, and he still looked like the same explosive player. And obviously, with everybody in the locker room, in that defensive line room, and we all know the talent in that defensive line room, saying how he has the potential to be a dominant player for a very long time in this league. Charles Harris has been a revelation so far. He's looked amazing. And then we look at Raekwon McMillan. Arguably, both of those two have probably had the best camp, other than Cameron Wake, which is insane. The two are 1 and 2 picks. Like that is like a godsend. Raekwon has looked amazing. He is the future of this defense. So obviously the middle linebacker is the quarterback of this defense, and he is the future. He has looked amazing so far. All of the questions, his narrative on Raekwon McMillan is can he be a 3-down player? And he has proven that he most definitely can be a 3-down player in the NFL. So yeah, I can't wait to see. I think these two are going to go down as one of the best 1-2 picks in Dolphins history. I really do believe that. That's how good they've looked. They have not been disappointing at all. Brandon says, this is a question comes from Brandon. He says, Bobby McCain is a good bench player. I think, but starting, I have seen him get routed time and time again. Do you agree? People forget how long. But this is Bobby's 3rd season in the league, and he was a 5th-round pick out of Detroit or Memphis, excuse me. So people forget how young Bobby is. I think he still has potential to be a good starting slot corner in this league. If he doesn't show growth this year, then I would say yeah, give up on him. But he has the athleticism to be a good slot corner in this league. He just needs to be a little bit smarter and little probably dial back how aggressive he is. And he's not a good tackler. He needs to work on tackling. Brandon says, I honestly feel that Zach Vigil and Michael. Okay. Special teams. Okay, that's not really a question. Let's see here. Going to the next, looking for the next question here. Antoine Jackson, he says, do you think William Hayes can be a defensive tackle for us if if we don't trade for a good, or sign one in free agency? Yes, I think we can move him like Michael Bennett for the Seattle Seahawks. He comes from a 3-4 system, so he's played on the interior of a defensive line. He knows what it takes to be successful, and he's one of the best run-stuffing defensive ends in the NFL. So, yeah, I think he could play defensive tackle if we needed him to. But his talents, I think, shine most when he's on the defensive end. I really don't think, out of all the defensive ends in the league, he sets the edge so well. He's so good at stopping the run, and he's just what the doctor ordered for the Dolphins' defensive line. So yeah, I definitely think he can if we needed him to. Yeah. Stephon Taylor says, who is the most underrated player on the Dolphins? Rashad Jones? ? No, I don't think Rashad's underrated. I think he doesn't get as much praise as he deserves because I think he's the best safety in the league, and nobody ever says Rashad's the best safety in the league, but I think he is. And I mean, when healthy, he does so much for a football team. But the most underrated, I think the obvious answer would be Tannehill. And I've said this many times, but people don't understand. Like, people are always complaining about the leadership. He never shows emotion. If you watched the press conferences this past weekend, if you heard the story about how Tannehill, if you guys, did the famous, mic'd up where Drew Brees has the whole team surrounded him, yelling and getting them hyped up. Tannehill was doing that in training camp. So I think Tannehill is underrated from the standpoint of his role in turning the Dolphins around and his emotion and his leadership and just being one of, I think he should have been a Pro Bowl quarterback in the past already, but I think he's set for an insanely good season. Other than, I think Tannehill would be the obvious one, but other than Tannehill, I'm trying to think of somebody who's super underrated. Kiko maybe. I think he's a little bit. I don't know. That's a tough question. A lot of Dolphins are underrated. Our team is underrated. This next question comes from Steven Taylor. He says, will Tannehill ever be a leader? It would be nice to see him show some emotion just once. I've never seen him get into a receiver on the sideline, or anyone for that matter. Have you? Name one team that's ever been to the big game with a wide receiver as their team leader. Can we go any further with a quarterback? Okay. See, again, this is a common misconception of Tannehill. Yes, I can actually point to a video. Okay, if you've ever seen... here's what I want you to do, Steven. Look up the video of him mic'd up against the Vikings. That's leadership right there. He shows great leadership in that game. Just from, being vocal in the huddle and everything like that. Another good clip to look up is when we played the Cleveland Browns in his second season in the league. Rashad Matthews did something really, I can't remember what he did, but it was something stupid, and Tannehill told him to get the F off the field, which I know that sounds stupid, super corny, and that was a very cringy moment for me saying, get the F off the field, but yeah, that's what he said. You can look up that clip. So he has shown emotion. Like I said, I'm basically saying the same thing. But yeah, he's a great leader. He is a leader on this team, and he was the leader last year. He's even more of a vocal leader this year. He's one of, if you heard him in this past press conference, literally saying, "This is my team and this is my offense." When he is, in the players in the locker room recognize him as their leader. Whenever you hear Juice talk about it, he considers himself one of the leaders of the team, but he says he refers to Tannehill as the leader too. Same thing with Michael Thomas on the defense. He thinks Tannehill is one of the bigger leaders on the team. So yeah, Michael Thomas, literally said he sets a very high example because of the work ethic that he brings to practice every single day. So I think he's a great role model for younger players on the team. I think he is already a leader, and I think if you look at some of the things that the teammates say about him, he's obviously a team leader. And have I ever seen a team? Okay, let's see here. Let's see, or anyone for that matter. Have you? Name me one team that has ever been to the big game with a wide receiver as their team leader. I can name you quite a few teams. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, but Michael Irvin was a huge leader for the Cowboys. Julio Jones this past season, probably the biggest leader in that locker room. Hines Ward for the Steelers, huge role model and huge leader for that Steelers team. Let's see here. Gamer. Okay, this comes from Gamerific. I think it's. Let me get closer here. Gamer. Yeah, it says Gamer_rific. I think. How good is Cordrea Tankersley? I asked this because you don't talk about him that much. I think I talk about him a lot. Cordrea Tankersley, super talented player. He needs to grow a lot, especially on the NFL level. He just some of the things he needs to work on. He is being more effective in the run game. To be that tall and that physical of a cornerback, you can't be that bad in the run game. That's something he needs to work on the NFL level. He needs to get sometimes he can be overly physical. A lot of defensive pass interferences were called him. A lot of holding calls were called him in college. That's something he needs to work on in the NFL. Is learning to be an elite man coverage corner with getting your hands off of a receiver 15 yards down the field. Those are some things he needs to learn. It's just stop. You can't. Byron Maxwell gets away with it a lot in the league, though. So does Richard Sherman. You need to learn how. There's just certain things you got to learn as a veteran corner, and I'm sure he'll learn it and develop into a really good corner. This next question comes from Antoine Jackson. He says, "Do you think our first team offense is going to show flashes of explosiveness, or will we get off to a slow start in the preseason?" No, I think you're going to. I think you're going to see a consistent explosive offense in preseason. Ronald says, he says, who did Kenyon Drake get into a fight with the other day at camp, like Friday or Saturday? I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but he didn't get in a fight with anybody. Somebody had hit a player on the offense, and Kenyon didn't like it, and Kenyon went in there to defend his offense. I think it was with Neville Hewitt. I can't remember, but Neville, I think, laid the boom on one of the players, and he went in there to try to go break it up and stand up for his boys on the offense side of the football. And somebody tried to peel him off, like try to get him off the pile, and then he didn't like that, and he turned around and started to, just get a little chippy. This next question comes from Ronald. He says, do you think with Grant dropping so many passes and kick returns that the team will try to find another guy on the roster like Owusu, Lewis, and Drake, or sign someone if they've already been working Kenyon as a punt returner? But Jakeem has looked really good doing it. He's looked way better than he did last year in training camp. This next question comes from Ronald. He says, why do you think Lawrence Timmons has gone on record twice now saying the first Miami Dolphins defensive line is... I answered this in the fan Q&A because he's right. He is right. This next question comes from Wing57. He says, if we decide to trade for a defensive tackle, who do you think the team is willing to give up? What is the team willing to give up to get one? I would say for Sheldon, you could get him for literally nothing, because the Jets know that they either trade him now and get something for him, something small, like a 5th pick or a 6th round pick for him, maybe some money. I don't know. Who knows what you would get for Sheldon, but they want him off the roster. They want to get something for him before free agency hits. They're just trying to get him off the roster. They just don't want him on the team anymore. So I think you could get him for like dirt cheap. He says, how do you think Ndamukong Suh's numbers would increase if we did get Sheldon Richardson and Sheldon Richardson's stats as well? I think Suh's numbers are going to increase dramatically just because of we added Charles Harris, we added Will Hayes, Andre Branch is coming into his own. I think his numbers are good. Excuse me. I think his numbers are going to significantly increase this upcoming season. Let's see here. This next This next question comes from Wing57. He says, there have been good reports out concerning Mike Pouncey's health. Do you think it's because of his quick recovery, or do you think or that he has increased chance to play in all 16 games because of his health, good signs of his health? Do you think? I definitely think with the plan that we have to rest him, take a bigger load off of him, not practice him as much. I think he definitely has an increased chance with the cautious approach that we're taking with him to play all 16 games. This next question comes from Wing57. He says, if we manage to get Sheldon Richardson, where would you rank our defensive line? The best in the league. Dolphins for Life says, because people don't, Sheldon Richardson is a really talented player. He is a Pro Bowl player. So to have 2 Pro Bowl defensive tackles and 1 Pro Bowl surefire first team All-Pro defensive end in Cameron Wake, the best 4-3 defensive end in the league. And then on the other side, you have either Charles Harris or Andre Branch, who I think Andre Branch, in terms of a pass rushing standpoint, one of the best in the league. And then you look at Charles Harris, who I think has the potential to be Defensive Rookie of the Year. So that defensive line would by far be the best from a talent, from the starter standpoint and depth standpoint. This next question comes from Dolphins for Life. He says, if our defensive players are healthy, will the Dolphins have a top defense? Yes, they will be one of the best in the league. Wing 57. I would say, when I say one of the best in the league, I would say one of the more consistent, good units in the league. So yeah, one of the best. Wing 50 says, this next question comes from Wing 57. He says, do you think that because we are now a run-first offense, teams will stack the box more against us? And if they do so now, what is your opinion on, will that help or hurt our, anytime, okay. So Adam Gase goes into a game, how he game plans, and he said this many times, he's a matchup guy. So if he goes into a game and he knows that your secondary has been struggling, he's going to pass it more. And, okay, let's take the Jets for an example. The Jets, they are a really good front seven. Even though their overall roster is not that good, their front is really good. So, going into the game, knowing that their secondary not that good, you're going to pass it more. That's how Adam Gase is. He's not just going to beat his head against the wall and try to, run the ball. If you're a good run defense, he's going to pass the ball more. So, if teams stack the box, Adam Gase, the best play caller in the league, is going to recognize that, and he's going to pass the football. So, yeah, I think that would help our defense. The Highlight God says, who will have a breakout season? Devontae Parker and Xavier Howard. Charles Harris, I guess, because he's a rookie. I think he will. Ian Good says, if Charles Harris shows that he's better than Andre Branch, do you think, yes, Gase will start him if he's better? That's his philosophy. He says, Ian Good, what is something you're looking for in this week's scrimmage? Yeah, I'm so very, very excited for the scrimmage this upcoming week. I'm looking for the offense to beat up on the defense. I want the offense to show consistency in a team, in a not beat up on the defense, but show dominance. I want the offense to show that. That's what I'm looking for. Ian Good says, do you think Deion Lacey has a legitimate chance of making the 53? Yeah, I do. Because he is a good, I think, because he's a good special teams player. Will says, what were your initial thoughts? Yeah, I answered that in the fan Q&A. This next question comes from Will. He says, why do you think the front office hasn't put a priority on the offensive line as they should? There's so many ways to look at that in different ways. First of all, this past draft was so talented with defensive players. That I think it was a good thing. We came out with Isaac Asiata, but mostly, obviously, we were focused on defense, which we should have. The guard position wasn't that good this past draft. It was top heavy and not a lot of depth. So I think that's why you didn't see us be more aggressive getting a guard in the draft. And I think in free agency, we didn't want to overpay for a guard, because we knew that we had to extend Kenny, and then we knew that we have to extend Jarvis. There's players that we have to retain. So I think that's why. Will says, of all the free agents we lost I answered that one. Will says, in the fan Q&A. Will said, what's a hypothetical trade or move you would make if you were the GM for the Dolphins? I would make that Sheldon Richardson trade. Even though I knew that making the trade, I would know that we probably aren't only going to have him for one season. But I would say he's too talented not to at least, if depending on the price, obviously. If they wanted like a 5th round pick, I wouldn't do it. I would only do it if they want a 7th or 6th. I would be willing to give a 6th or 7th, but I would not be willing to give up a 5th. Will says, pick one Miami Heat player to put on the Dolphins roster. Who would it be if you had to pick one Heat player? Bam Adebayo. I think I think he could be a good tight end. The gamer 12345 says, who do you think is the most overrated and the most underrated player in the NFL? Oh God, the most overrated player in the NFL. The first one that comes to mind is Dak, because Dak had such a good surrounding supporting cast. That is like a rookie quarterback's dream, to have an all-pro running back, an all-pro offensive lineman basically at every position, a Hall of Fame tight end, an all-pro first-team all-pro receiver, one of the best number 2 receivers in the league in Terrence Williams, one of the best slot receivers in Cole Beasley, and then have Bryce Butler, who's a red zone threat like he is. That is a dream. He didn't. I'm not saying that. Not taking anything away from what Dak did, but he didn't have to do. He didn't have to make a lot of plays. Like he didn't make. I don't think he made his teammates better. I think his teammates made him better. Is basically what I'm saying. I think he's the most overrated and the most underrated player in the NFL. The most underrated player in the NFL. I'm going to say lately, I think some names to name off. I think Quan Alexander, super underrated player. Levante David, super underrated player. Andrew Luck, I think he's underrated. Because I think people are like, he needs to bring his. People don't understand how much of it. This is a rant that people have said a million times, but I think he's underrated, and people expect him to carry a terrible offensive line. If you have a bad offensive line, you're not gonna have a good season. I think he's under. I don't think I'm gonna take Luck out of it. He's not underrated. I think Luck, just depending on who you ask. I don't think he's underrated, but the most underrated player in the NFL. That's a hard one. There's so many that come to mind. Jordan Howard. I think Jordan Howard is super underrated. I think he was overshadowed because of the rookie class, how good the rookie class was last season. When you think about how many great, like Zeke Elliott, Tyreek Hill, Michael Thomas. There were so many good. So I would say Jordan Howard probably. Colin Klein says Tom Brady is by far the most overrated and the most underrated Tyron Smith. All offensive linemen aren't going to get those guys are all underrated. No, you walk up to a casual fan and you're not going to know who he is. The Gamer 12345, Mason Rudolph or Baker Mayfield. I would go with Baker Mayfield. The Gamer 12345, what player would you love to see the Dolphins draft next year? Oh man. I really don't know. That's a tough question. The Gamer 1235 says who's got a better chance to beat New England, Pittsburgh, or Oakland? The Dolphins, my friend. That's who's got the better chance. Matt Gamer says in the AFC East or NFC North. Is the AFC East or West or the NFC North the hardest division? The AFC North isn't. I don't know. I don't think it's that tough to be like in contention. Well, I guess it is. It's pretty tough. I would say the AFC West is the hardest division in football right now. Man Gamer says, when is Tom retiring? Jesus, God only knows when he's retiring. People are like, oh, he's the ageless wonder. Tom Brady is not the player he used to be. He cannot throw the ball deep like he used to. I'm sorry. I'm not saying he's a bad. I'm not saying he can't throw deep, but I'm saying he doesn't have the arm that he once had. If you watch tape of Brady from 2016, let's say from 2012 Brady versus 2016 Brady is just a totally different. That's just a totally different arm, in my opinion. Let's see here. Who is the most dangerous and outstanding Finn on offense and defense? That's a tough question. Most outstanding. We have so many players on offense. You could pick from Jarvis, Ryan, Jay, Julius, DP, Kenyon. There's so many really, really good players who can just wreck a game plan. And on defense, Cameron Wake, Sue. There's so many players you could pick from there too. Colin Klein says no. Let's see here. Man Gamer says, is J.J. good enough to lead the league in rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, broken tackles, or touchdowns? Yes, absolutely. Man Gamer says, did you see Jarvis Landry's overall in the new game Madden? Or the new Madden 18? No, I did not. Man Gamer says, can the Finns win the division? We have the talent to win divisions, yeah. Man Gamer says, can the Finns beat the Patriots? Yes, they could beat the Patriots. Man Gamer says, is Jarvis a Hall of Famer? Or not. If he keeps up what he's doing now, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. Man Gamer says, is Jay the next Marshawn Lynch? Yeah, and he's a little bit faster, too. Man Gamer says, is Kenny Stills reliable? Yes. Man Gamer, who's better, Jarvis or Odell? That's a tough question. Man Gamer says, who do you compare Jarvis and Devontae to? I answered that in the fan Q&A. Jaden Alexander says, do you think Jarvis Landry's promise that the Dolphins will sweep the Patriots will happen? Whether it'll happen or not, I'm glad that he said it. I would hope to God he thinks that going in, and I hope he doesn't think, oh, we're going to lose today. But yeah, we definitely have the talent to beat them. Jaden Underwood says, do you think another linebacker would be a good idea? Well, I'm confident in the depth that we have. Whew, that has been your Miami Dolphins fan Q&A, or this has been your Miami Dolphins podcast for this week. Oof. Starting to lose my voice a little bit. So we can do some fan service that we can't really do at the start of the podcast. If you made it this far, then you like the content. Just trying to think of something to. So some of the things that from some community announcements that I've been waiting to do to hit 1,000. You guys asked, is there a special video that I'm going to do for 1,000 subscribers? Yes, and it's not going to be like I open it, like it's going to be a video that I wanted to do if I did hit 1,000. The video that I wanted to do is do a video collaboration. I want to do a collaboration with a different sports YouTuber. It's going to be like a debate show, like kind of like not like First Take, but more like movie fights on Screen Junkies. That's kind of what I want to gear it to, because I wanted to, to be questions all around or whatever. So I want to do that I want to do a collaboration like that with somebody. I don't know who we're gonna do it with, but I definitely wanted to get that done once we hit 1,000. So look out for that. What other ones? Again, thank you guys for building the community. Like seriously, we have the best Dolphins community in any community. Like, it's important for me, to have this, and we've built a great community, and I think we have the best one on YouTube. So yeah, I definitely want to come up with more shows that involve the community in more ways to interact with the community on this channel. So that's something I'm going to work on. Try to spitball some ideas there. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. Other than that, I think that's it. So that has been your Miami Dolphins podcast for this week. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any ideas to improve the performance of the community interaction, if you have any ideas for that. Also, if you guys have anybody that you would like to see me collaborate with, leave that down in the comment section below. And I am Skags1383. And if you guys, okay, yeah, just let me know who you guys want me to collaborate with. So I am Skaxter83. That has been your Miami Dolphins podcast for this week, and I will see you guys in the next one.